Hey everyone, it's the Miserable Movie Man back once again with another video. So we're in the final stretch now. The last 3 episodes of Andor are going to drop, I think, tonight, my time, or maybe tomorrow. And I did my last video on how I didn't really enjoy the episodes that were dropped before 4 to 6. But I have got through episodes 7 to 9, and this is my video review of those episodes. Now I will say straight off the bat, there has been a marked improvement in episodes 8 and 9. Is this the best Star Wars content ever? No. Do I think Andor is amazing? No. Have I changed my opinion on Andor? Still no. But I did enjoy episodes 8 and 9 way more so than the 7 episodes before it. Even episode 7 is pretty dull. Almost nothing happens. Andor wakes up in Yavin 4, has some chats with Bix. Bix says, we'll get together later after all this is done, which, as I said in my previous video, means that she's going to disappear or something will happen. I mean, we know that Andor will die, so clearly that is not the happy ending that she thought they were going to have. But episode 7 really is just about, again, laying the groundwork, I would say, for episodes 8 and 9, and you could say that the whole season has laid the groundwork for those episodes. But it's, again, small things, small details, things that really aren't that interesting to me, focusing on the characters. I think I've come to the conclusion that Andor is the Christopher Nolan version of Star Wars. Everything is real life, everything is gritty, focusing on the characters, but I would say, unlike Nolan to some degree, they do try to give the characters arcs. Are these character arcs that I really care about or am interested in? Generally, no. The 3 folks that I kind of enjoy watching are Luthen, Mon Mothma, and Partagaz. Even Dedra and Cyril are becoming irrelevant to me. Andor just running off from thing to thing, doing whatever he's asked, struggling with, is he in rebellion, does he want to quit? I mean, we saw this with Han Solo, but in an earlier vein. So let's get on to episodes 8 and 9, which arguably are the most well received. They have the highest ratings. Folks have reviewed them saying it's perfect television. They could not believe the level of tension. They could not believe the action. They could not believe how much it kept them on the edge of their seats. Did I feel all these things? Well, quite frankly, no. Everything that was building to episode 8 played out in exactly the way that you foresaw it happening. The Empire is evil, we knew that from the Star Wars trilogy. The Emperor is evil, we knew that from the Star Wars original trilogy. So seeing the Empire crush a potential uprising on Gorman for their own purposes is neither surprising nor even shocking. Yes, you could say that they were trying to build up the tension with the troops building their armaments and fortifications there. Yes, you could say that they were trying to build up the tension by having a very human, Earth-style insurrection plot being engineered by the Empire. And yes, you could draw the comparisons between the resistance in France, as I said in the last video, against the rise of fascist Germany, Nazi Germany. But where's the surprise? I mean, we knew there was going to be a massacre in the Gorman Square. We could see it happening. It was unfolding right before our eyes. People were getting shot left, right, and centre. To me, that wasn't tense, because I saw it coming a mile off. Even the way they executed it, no pun intended, with Cyril, sort of being one of the chief protagonists of helping to engineer it. And then as events unfold, realizing that he is an unwitting pawn, a completely pathetic figure in this tale of tragedy as the Empire rears its ugly head and shows, really truly what it is and how it's going to rise to power. So Cyril himself obviously starts to doubt, sees the machinations, sees what's happening around him and how he's played his part in it. And he starts to unravel. Yeah, I mean, pretty strong real life characterization and character development. But I never really cared for Cyril as a character. I never really cared to see ordinary people being fooled by the Empire. And, watching him break down and run out, and then see Andor, the person that he has been chasing for his career, finally seeing the culprit in front of him after all that Cyril went through and investigating Andor's killing of the Imperial Guards in the first season. It's right at the start, to helping to uncover a rebel plot, to working with Dedra on Ferrix, to falling in love with Dedra, and then going to Gorman as somebody that was there to sort of help instigate an uprising, and then seeing the massacre of the people he was helping and watching how ruthless the Empire is. All of these things in Cyril's head, which brings him to find Andor and try and conclude. But then, he has that pause before he shoots him, and then I think Rylance kills him, which I saw coming as well, because Rylance was one of those folks who was always trying to preach peace and do things the right way, but you could see events really forcing him to change and forcing him to accept the reality of the situation happening around him. And that will cause rage in most people, which was what happened. He was angry at Cyril for being the instigator. He took all of his rage out on Cyril for what was happening and shot him with a pathetic, tragic end to a tragic figure that I really did not care about. So, in the way that Tales of the Empire, Tales of the Jedi focus on individuals, I think having Cyril as this sort of sad individual that believes he's doing the right thing but slowly comes to realize that he isn't who he thinks he is and is being duped and hasn't been doing the right thing, and sees the Empire for what we know it to be. It wasn't a strong arc for me. It wasn't that interesting for me. I didn't care for him as a character so much. So seeing him get his comeuppance, seeing him die in a pretty pathetic fashion, in a pretty pointless fashion, wasn't, particularly interesting to me. I would much rather have seen Cyril live, and either we see the ramifications and the guilt that he has to cope with as he realizes what he's done and what he's been a part of, or even potentially join the rebellion. I mean, we saw he was potentially starting to turn just before that. So it would have been interesting to see if he was ready to join the rebellion after everything he'd done, everything he'd witnessed, everything he had instigated. That would have been a much better, stronger turn for me. But let's talk a little bit about the way they shot Episode 8. I think it was well shot. It was pretty gritty. It was very much, documentary style in your face. That was quite cool. Seeing the KX droids, which, we don't really see in Star Wars after this much, other than Rogue One. Seeing the KX droids and the damage that they can unleash on folks was, it was nice to see what they're capable of, and I think it brought home a horrible realization to the folks who were trying to resist. But ultimately, we know the Empire is ruthless from watching Tarkin blow up Alderaan. We know that the Empire is ruthless from watching them burn Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. We know what they're capable of. So I guess seeing the Star Wars in-universe population waking up to it wasn't as revelatory as I think other people have found it. At least for me, it was almost as if watching as an audience member, how things are going to pan out, and you see the audience reaction. But in the storyline, watching those characters or that universe wake up to those things isn't as interesting if we know that they're capable of it already, for me. So I think it works in psychological dramas. I think it works in thrillers. I think it works in many formats and genres. But in Star Wars, for me, didn't need to see it. Did not need to see the universe waking up to the fact the Empire is evil. And in fact, they don't all fully know, right? Because the telecasts or the telesims or the simcasts or whatever you want to call it, which were too eerily filmed, too eerily shot, and too eerily acted, as if they were just regular news broadcasts from Earth. That, to me, was a bit ridiculous. But that, again, hits my suspension of disbelief that this is Star Wars. This should really be frontline reporting in Iraq or Afghanistan or Gaza. I mean, it's really not something that's so different and well conceived for it to be having a wow factor for me. But yeah, I mean, seeing the Gorman's resistance fall and seeing how Cassian gets his KX droid was okay, not bad, better than the previous episodes. I said I would call it enjoyable, but not a masterpiece, at least for me. And then let's get on to episode 9, which is The Great Escape. There were a lot of things this episode I enjoyed and a lot of things this episode I didn't enjoy. I think the way that they've built up Mon Mothma to have her breaking point after Gorman was good. As I said, I enjoy watching Mon Mothma's character, other than when she's drunk and dancing to EDM and letting her emotions run wild. But, having her give the speech was a nice touch. But the whole, again, I like consistency. And so having the Empire be ruthless on Gorman was cool. But having them be incompetent on Coruscant was not cool. And one person undercover in Bale's team, the intrigue, who could it be? Could it be Bale himself? Of course it's not. That didn't build up to be a very well thought out execution for me. And it was almost as if that agent, the ISB agent, was out of her depth, didn't really know what was going on, made some pretty rash decisions. Secondly, they don't seem to be able to cut the feed easily, even though we know the sort of maybe people in the rebellion are helping to keep the feed going. But it just seemed comical with one guy running around trying to get some code so he could go in and shut a feed. Thirdly, they want to arrest Mothma, and she's just finished her speech. So what do? They turn up to her chambers about 20 minutes afterwards. Unlike Cassian, who's there as she walks out. So that was pretty ridiculous. Having them run around and trying to get in different places, and Luthen being concerned and even being on site really for a while. Yeah, it was okay, not bad, but again, silly choices for me. Having the way that they escape by having Cassian shoot a couple of people and Mon Mothma absolutely mortified that in order to escape there would have to be death, having been aware of so many deaths already, was a little bit strange. And then really the driver getting out of the car to go up and see what was going on was also not that well thought out. So the parts of the episode I liked, which was the speech and building Mon Mothma as a character, and Luthen probably coming to terms with the fact that he's going to have to really start ramping up the pace now, was interesting. But really the escape part, and even Cassian's involvement in it, I mean, really could have been anyone, didn't have to be Cassian. I mean, yes, he's come through for Luthen every time, which is probably why Luthen sent him, but I'm sure Luthen has other more capable operatives, or maybe he doesn't, I don't know. But yeah, that was not great for me. Just okay. I will say that episodes 8 and 9, and also in episode 9, I kind of saw a lot of that coming. It wasn't like it built up to any real earth-shattering surprise conclusions, or went in directions that I didn't see, or gave me some sense of wow factor, like, oh, I can't believe they did that, or I can't believe that happened. There were none of those feelings, because everything was playing out as they have been openly hitting you on the head with a hammer of potential outcomes since the start of the season. You knew this was going to happen, you knew it was going to play out this way, so there is no surprise factor there for me, and the execution, as I said, was just okay. But I would say episodes 8 and 9 are a step up. More stuff is happening, and some parts of it, as I said, are interesting. I would give episodes... Well, I'll give episode 7 pretty low score, but I would say episode 8, maybe a 6.5/7 for me. Maybe I'll give episode 8 a 7, and episode 9 a 6.5. It's better than before. Still not great. Too real world, too gritty, too obvious. You know, people can say this is not Star Wars original trilogy with a galaxy far, far away, things we've never seen before, aliens we've never seen before, mystical forces we've never seen before, weapons and fighting we've never seen before. That was the essence of Star Wars, a Saturday morning matinee serial designed for children with strong, stereotypical characters of good and evil and morals that we're supposed to learn from. Andor, obviously, has gone the other way. Let's take individual characters, let's give them really long arcs, let's try and make it very intricate and real world and gritty as possible to show what's really happening at the ground level in the Star Wars universe. But unless it's a character that really I'm invested in, and as I said, there are a few, Saw, Mon Mothma, Luthen, unless it's a character that I'm invested in, that I am eager to see what happens and how they pan out, it doesn't hold me, it doesn't grip me. So, sorry, but Bix, Wilmon, Cassian, Cyril, Dedra, they're all just there to advance the story, and they're all written in a way to make us try and care about them, but it's so openly obvious that it doesn't really hit me. But last 3 episodes are dropping tonight. From the trailer, I think this is where all the big budget special effects and action is going to be. Maybe there's going to be some space battle there. Maybe Luthen and Mothma and Saw will join up and form the crux of the rebel leadership. Who knows? Let's wait and see. If Andor is improving, as episodes 8 and 9 showed, maybe 10 to 12 will fully redeem it. And maybe by the end of it, I will have a totally different opinion. But I doubt it. But fingers crossed, let's see. Anyway, there you go. That's my review of Andor Season 2, Episodes 7 to 9. Definitely a step up. Still not my Star Wars. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. And as usual, catch you next time.